Hi, Jay here from Turning Up Teachers. Just a quick video today, probably more for some beginning users. When we're putting images into our work, especially with Google Slides and Google Drawings, of course, they work exactly the same and their toolbars look exactly the same. I've chosen to use slides to model with this time. We can start to have kids at really young ages doing interesting things with images. We know that images are worth 1,000 words. So it's important that they know how to use images powerfully. So I'm going to quickly go through some of the helpful things we have in our toolbar that are designed for helping us make images interesting. I'm just going to start with some of our insertion options. Of course, kids can go up to the very top toolbar and say insert image and go and get their choices that way. But of course, we have a button for that to save a couple clicks. And when you're here, the top button here we probably don't use quite as much. That'd be if you have some images saved on hard drive on a computer or PC. But we know most of our students are using Chromebooks, so they won't be uploading from computer too often. Search the web is a safe search, at least in our school board, where they're filtered results for kids. And when you click this option, you're searching for your Google images over here. And the options that come up might be a bit more limited versus if you just did a wide open search on a different tab. However, most of these have been filtered and are for educational use, and kids are able to use these images without breaking any copyright. So I make sure that my students stay inside this search parameter from right within the Slides app. Of course, you can take anything from Drive as an image, a JPEG, a PNG file. Those work great. And you can always turn on the camera as well and take an image right from the Chromebook. Okay, so those are some different inserting options for getting images onto your page. But when you do insert an image, let me go ahead and I'm going to upload, I'm going to search the web. I'm going to just put in the picture of a skyscraper. Maybe I'm focusing on structures right now in grade 3, and I'm going to click insert and put that image in. Of course, younger kids panic when the image is put in so large, but we teach them to grab those handles. And of course, if they're using the diagonal ones, we're doing that proportional resizing, which is really helpful. So formatting menu, when I'm not clicked on the image, so there's no blue handles around an image, I'm looking up here and there's nothing here for formatting images. But as soon as an image is selected, Format Options pops up. It gives you lots of other choices here. Size and position gets very fancy. Has some rotation choices in there that we could talk about. So for flipping our image, rotating our image, that sort of thing. If I scroll down further, I'm going to collapse this here. Recolor is something that's kind of interesting. So we talk about the power of color. So when the image is yellow versus a dark teal, there's a very different response from the person looking at the image. So we can talk about recoloring images when we're doing poetry or images with emotion. So that's kind of neat for the recoloring piece. Adjustments is a great one because we can play with transparency of an image and fade it. We can also play with its brightness and its contrast, looking at shadow and that sort of thing. So kids can sort of fiddle with some of these options to make the image fit what they need. I'm just going to reset that image. And you know what? I'm going to take that recoloring off as well, or the option was no recolor. There's the original image there. So again, I need to select this to see the rest of the images come up. Really cool drop shadows. They can make things look really professional, especially when you're putting multiple images on things like a newsletter, or perhaps you're making a menu. I'm going to play with transparency of the drop shadow. You're not seeing much of a shadow around the edge. So I can actually play with something down here that's called distance and make that shadow further away from the image. So you see now down here. If I play with the angle, that lets me figure out which direction I want the shadow to go. And you can actually change the color of the shadow too. Typically, though, the black looks nice just because it's it's reality there. So I do have students play with drop shadow. Kind of gives a 3D appeal to some of the work that they're doing. Okay, and lastly, if I go down to reflection piece, I can you see that instantly a reflection went down below. You can make that reflection more transparent. This is really cool if you want to make it look like it's reflecting on water or something like that. You can also increase the distance of where that reflection shows up. So kids like to play with some of those different options. So those are the formatting options I use a lot with images. And cropping and masking is something that I really like to do. So again, I'm going to put some sort of image in. Let's see, I'm going to put in a tree. And there's a great one. Perhaps I don't want the whole tree. So I'm going to look up my menu, and this button here is called cropping. And when you click that, you see that there's black handles put around the image. You can then drag the black handles. See, kids need to be very careful. I grabbed the blue one there, so I'm going to undo that and try to grab the black one instead and see how that goes. Let's see if I got it. Yep, I got it that time. So kids kind of need to learn about this, and they can crop out the part of the picture that they want to keep. So now there's no road there. And when they hit the return button, it cuts off the end. What's really neat though is beside that crop button, and again, that button doesn't appear unless there's an image that's selected. Beside it is a down arrow that says masking. You can crop a picture in any shape you want, and you can manipulate what those shapes are. That's kind of a lot of fun. And some of my favorite masks to do, you can even mask in the shape of a heart, a lightning bolt. So I'll have kids get creative with art using triangle a lot because you can position a bunch of triangles together. So imagine putting together something of a collage with different triangles, and each image had a certain color or something for art or to that effect. So that's called cropping and masking. You can mask in an arrow as well. So really cool for infographics. If you're trying to tell a story without using words, there's all kinds of different ways that you can have kids share imagery in different sorts of ways. Okay. Transparency, now I showed that briefly before when we go to the menu to work on the transparency of an image. Let's put in the tree again here. I'm going to choose this one, and I'm going to put in the second one as well. There we go. And tree number 2. All right. Just to play around with images here a little bit. You want to be able to overlap images. I should have actually searched a bird, and I could have put a bird in one tree. So if I have large images over top, of course you can drag them on top of each other, but maybe you want the one in the back to be forward. So if you right tap or right click or 2-finger click on a Chromebook to bring up this menu, this image now has a blue handle around it. I can go to order and I can send back. So I can reorder different sorts of images, and maybe I want to send this to the back now. I like that other small image at the front, right? And you can then sort of do your layering of your different images that way. And of course, kids are able to then put their text boxes and put their labels on their work to create an infographic or something that looks like a nonfiction text, right? Getting creative with backgrounds and PNGs. If you 2-finger tap in the middle of a slide, one of the choices says change background, and you can choose an image, and in there you can upload something from your own Google Drive, or again, you can search, and it brings you to the same search box, and maybe I want a tree for my entire image, and or my entire background. I'm going to choose this one here, and what it does is it'll stretch it so it fits the entire background. And now kids can go ahead and make their slideshows really interesting. And talking too about making the font color contrast against the background so it looks professional and that sort of thing. So that's a neat way to get a background on very quickly. And if I do want to put a bird on right now, if I just search bird, a lot of the images that come back are going to have a colored rectangular background around it. So if I insert this bird now on top of my background, it has this ugly rectangle that doesn't look very good. And there's an easy way around this. I'm going to delete that image. We're going to search for a transparent bird this time, or bird PNG. And that just means a file that does not have a background on it. I find if I type the word transparent, and it makes sense for the kids too, we get more options back that fit, especially within the Google search. So perhaps I'm going to choose this mallard. Now it should not have a background on it when it comes in. So you can see we just have the bird without the ugly rectangle. I can now add this bird to my tree, and we have something that looks a bit more realistic. We can add some speech bubbles by going to shapes, callouts, and we can start to create some stories. Right? And I can type inside any of those shapes with text, and